She came home in tears every day, so he hid a recorder in her hair. Welcome to our channel where every story is more than just words. It's a journey of emotion, courage, and truth. If this story touched you, let us know where you're watching from in the comments. We love seeing how far these stories travel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss what's coming next. A powerful new story will premiere tomorrow, and trust us, it's one you won't want to miss. Thank you for being here. Your support means the world, and together we'll keep uncovering the voices that deserve to be heard. It all started on a quiet Tuesday morning in suburban Austin, Texas. The sky was still a pale shade of gray as Jack Mitchell knelt beside his 8-year-old daughter, Emily, to tie her shoelaces. She stood still, unusually quiet, her small hands tightly gripping the edge of her sweater. Normally, Emily would be bubbling with questions, stories, and a silly joke or two before school. But lately, Jack had noticed a change, subtle, but chilling. Her eyes, those once bright, curious eyes, now held something else. Something heavy, something dark. Fear. Jack gently smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Be good at school today, okay, sweetie?" Emily didn't respond. She didn't even nod. Instead, she lowered her head and clenched her fists a little tighter. That's when Jack's stomach twisted. "Emily," he whispered, his voice soft but filled with concern. "What's wrong?" She hesitated. Then, with barely a voice, she replied, "Daddy, can I stay home today?" Jack blinked. Emily loved school. She had never, not once, asked to skip a day. "Are you feeling sick?" he asked. "Did something happen in class?" Emily shook her head slowly, her eyes not meeting his. "No, I don't want to go." Alarm bells rang louder in Jack's mind. He knelt again, this time so their eyes could meet. "Emily, you can always tell Daddy anything. I promise, no matter what, I'm here." Her lips trembled. A single tear slipped down her cheek. "It's nothing, Daddy," she said, forcing a faint smile. "I'll go to school." Jack tried to keep calm, but his gut screamed otherwise. He opened the car door and watched her climb into the back seat, her tiny frame curled against the window, staring out as if lost in thought. No songs, no stories, no laughter. When they reached the school gate, Jack turned to her again. "Are you sure you're okay?" This time, Emily finally looked at him. Her voice was fragile, barely audible. "Daddy, if I'm not a good girl, will you still love me?" The question pierced through him like a blade. "Oh, honey," Jack whispered, pulling her into a tight hug. "You are the most wonderful little girl in the world. Daddy loves you no matter what." She clung to him as if afraid he'd disappear. "I'm scared," she whispered into his chest. Jack held her tighter. "What are you scared of, sweetheart?" But Emily only shook her head. Then, without another word, she pulled away and ran through the school gate, vanishing into the sea of students. Jack sat frozen in the driver's seat, his heart pounding. Something was very, very wrong, and he knew then. This wasn't just childhood anxiety or a bad dream. It was the beginning of something far more serious, and he had to find out what. Jack couldn't sleep that night. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, haunted by the sound of his daughter's fragile voice. "Daddy, will you still love me?" And then, "I'm scared." Over and over again, those words echoed in his mind like a broken record. Emily had always been a happy kid, energetic, curious, full of life. But now, something, or someone, was slowly draining the light from her, and she wouldn't say a word about it. By sunrise, Jack made a decision. He walked quietly into Emily's room, careful not to wake her. She was still curled under the covers, clutching her stuffed bunny. Her breathing was soft, but even in sleep, her little brow was furrowed with worry. In his hand was a small device, a micro-recording unit no bigger than a coin. It had been given to him by Charles, his best friend who worked in security tech. It could record for hours without detection. Jack had dismissed it at first, but now he felt he had no choice. He gently picked up a sky-blue hair clip from Emily's vanity. It was her favorite, the one with tiny silver stars on the side. With careful fingers, he slipped the device into the underside of the clip, securing it so it wouldn't fall out or be noticed. He knelt beside her bed and whispered, "I'm sorry I have to do this, sweetie, but Daddy needs to know what's happening to you." Later that morning, as Emily got ready for school, Jack stood behind her, brushing her hair, a task her mother used to do before she passed. "Daddy, you never help with my hair," Emily said, tilting her head with a sleepy smile. Jack smiled back, keeping his tone light. "Well, I just thought you'd look extra pretty with your star clip today." She nodded and whispered, "Thanks, Daddy," before grabbing her backpack, but as she walked out the door, that smile disappeared again. The same weight returned to her eyes. The day dragged on like a lifetime. Jack kept checking the time, counting down the hours until she got home. His hands trembled as he waited, fear, guilt, and anger swirling in his chest like a storm. At 4 p.m. sharp, he picked her up. Emily looked worse than the day before, her eyes red and puffy, her voice barely a whisper. Jack didn't push her, not yet. That night, after Emily fell asleep, he retrieved the hair clip, his hands shaking as he plugged the recorder into his laptop. One audio file. 6 hours. He hit play. At first, just classroom noise, papers rustling, kids chatting. Then, a voice. Cold, sharp, unmistakable. "Emily, stand up," silence, then slap. Jack's breath caught, his knuckles went white. "You're worthless. Just like your father. No one will ever love you." His heart broke. His fury ignited. Now he knew. He wasn't just imagining things. Someone was hurting his daughter, and it was time to fight back. Jack sat frozen at his desk, the echo of the slap still ringing in his ears. His hands were clenched so tightly his knuckles had turned white. He couldn't believe what he'd just heard. Those words, that cruelty, directed at his 8-year-old daughter. And worse, the voice behind it wasn't just any adult. It was her teacher, the one entrusted to care for her, Martha Davidson. The way she hissed, "You're worthless, just like your father," made Jack's stomach turn. But what broke him completely was the threat. "If you open your mouth, I'll tell everyone your dad's a criminal. The police will come take him away, and you'll end up in an orphanage." He slammed his laptop shut and pushed away from the desk, breathing heavily, eyes wild. This wasn't just bullying. This was psychological torture. This was abuse. He paced the room, fists trembling. He wanted to scream. He wanted to break something. But most of all, he wanted to protect Emily. He had already failed once, letting her go to that school day after day while this monster broke her down from the inside. Not anymore. Without thinking, Jack grabbed his car keys and stormed out of the house. The school's parking lot was dark and empty when he arrived. Lights glowed faintly through the office windows. He pounded on the front door until a janitor nervously opened it. Jack marched, passed without a word, and made his way to the principal's office. It was close to midnight. Principal Raymond Clark answered the door in sweatpants and a confused expression. "Mr. Mitchell, do you know what time?" Jack didn't let him finish. He shoved his phone in the principal's face. "You need to hear this." He hit play. The room fell silent. Clark's expression slowly shifted, from confusion to disbelief to something colder. When the audio ended, Jack's voice was low, controlled, but deadly serious. "Tell me, Principal Clark, what now?" The man sighed. "Mr. Mitchell, I understand your concern, but—" Jack cut him off. "But what? You're going to tell me you didn't know? Or worse, you did know and looked the other way?" Clark's jaw tensed. "You don't understand who you're dealing with. Ms. Davidson has connections. If you take this public, you could lose custody of Emily." For a second, the world stood still. Then Jack saw red. With one swift motion, he threw a punch, straight, to Clark's jaw. The principal stumbled back, clutching his face as blood trickled from his mouth. "You've just made a big mistake," Clark growled. "No," Jack said, stepping forward. "You did. The second you chose to protect a predator." Just then, Charles burst into the office, pulling Jack back before things escalated. "We need a different plan," Charles said firmly. "If we do this right, We don't just expose her. We take the whole system down. Jack nodded slowly, breathing hard. They were past the point of no return. And now, there was only one direction left to go. Forward. The night after Jack punched Principal Clark, everything changed. He didn't sleep, not even for a minute. He sat in the kitchen with the lights off, his elbows on the table, and the recording device lying silently in front of him. The sound of Emily's soft sobs, the venom in Martha Davidson's voice, the threat to tear their family apart. It played over and over in his mind like a horror film on repeat. Charles paced in the living room behind him. "You need backup." Charles finally said, "You can't win this alone." Jack nodded. "I know, that's why I need your friend, the reporter." Charles was already dialing. "Daniel Ramsey, he's not just some blogger. This guy's exposed corrupt judges. Police cover-ups, you name it." That afternoon, they met Daniel at a quiet corner cafe near the edge of town. Jack was jittery, his eyes bloodshot from rage and exhaustion. Daniel, calm and sharply dressed, listened intently as Jack laid it all out. The abuse, the cover-up, the threat, and the recording. When the audio clip ended, Daniel leaned back slowly, his fingers steepled in front of him. "This," he said, "is going to blow up everything." Jack swallowed. "Good, it needs to." Daniel nodded. "But we need more. One voice won't be enough. If we're going to drag them into the light, we'll need testimony, records, more than just your daughter's pain." Jack leaned forward. "You'll help me do that?" Daniel looked him in the eye. "I'll help you start a fire they can't put out." The next 48 hours were a blur. Daniel worked nonstop, interviewing other parents, digging into Martha Davidson's record. There were rumors, complaints that had vanished, whispers of students suddenly transferred, teachers mysteriously reassigned. There was a pattern, a sickening one. But then something changed. The morning Daniel uploaded the article, the internet exploded. Teacher caught abusing student, school cover-up alleged. The headline was everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, local news. The recording was embedded in the article. The words, "You're worthless and they'll take your dad away," sent shockwaves through the community. By noon, Jack's phone was flooded. Parents, journalists, lawyers. And for the first time in days, Jack felt something unfamiliar: hope. That afternoon, when he picked Emily up from school, other parents stood waiting too. But this time, they weren't just there for their kids. They were there for Jack. A woman stepped forward, Mrs. Lawson, whose son was in Emily's class. Her voice shook, but her eyes were fierce. "We read the article. We believe you. And we're not staying silent anymore." Jack felt tears sting his eyes. He didn't need to speak. He just nodded. The silence was broken. The wall of fear had cracked. And now, with the public behind him, the school couldn't sweep it under the rug again. The battle wasn't over. But finally, it had begun on his terms. The next morning, Jack woke up to a storm of notifications. The article had gone viral overnight. Local media had picked it up, then regional outlets, and now national news was circling. The audio clip, Emily's trembling voice, Martha Davidson's threats, was being played on radio shows, podcasts, even the evening news. But with the attention came pushback. By noon, Principal Clark had issued a public statement calling the report misleading and taken out of context. The school board tried to downplay it, calling it an isolated incident under review. But the public wasn't buying it, because now the silence was shattered. Jack received messages from over a dozen parents. Many had stayed quiet out of fear, but not anymore. Some shared stories of their own children's mistreatment. Others had heard the same threats. A few had even transferred their kids out of fear. And then came the breakthrough. A parent, anonymous at first, contacted Daniel directly. She had a journal. Her daughter had written in it every day during the last school year, page after page, described verbal abuse, threats, even physical punishments from Ms. Davidson. Names, dates, details. It was undeniable. That night, Daniel called Jack. "This is it. We're filing a formal complaint with the police, and I've got 3 more parents willing to testify. We're going public again, louder this time. Jack gripped his phone, his voice shaking. Are you sure we're ready for this? Daniel replied without hesitation. We can't afford not to be. The next morning, the second article dropped, and this time, it named names. It exposed how the school had ignored red flags for years, how Principal Clark had dismissed prior complaints, how disciplinary records had mysteriously vanished. And then, the police showed up at the school. Uniformed officers entered the building just after 10 a.m. By lunchtime, both Martha Davidson and Principal Clark were escorted off campus. Jack watched it all unfold from his car in the parking lot. His heart pounded. Emily's school, once a place of silent pain, was now the center of a reckoning. Later that day, he picked her up. This time, Emily didn't walk out with her shoulders slumped or eyes downcast. She ran to him, jumped into his arms, held him tight. "Daddy," she whispered. "She's gone, right?" Jack nodded, his throat too tight to speak. He kissed the top of her head. "She's gone, and she's not coming back." That night, for the first time in weeks, Emily slept soundly. No tears, no nightmares. Just peace. But for Jack, the fight wasn't over. He met with attorneys, parents, and advocacy groups. He made it his mission to ensure no child would ever have to go through what Emily endured. He spoke on local panels, gave interviews, stood beside other parents as they found the courage to speak. Justice wasn't just about punishment. It was about healing, about rebuilding what fear had torn apart. And in that fight, Jack Mitchell wasn't alone anymore. If this story moved you, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Jack made the right decision by going public, even when the system threatened him? Have you or someone you know ever faced something similar, where silence felt safer, but the truth had to be told? Your voice matters. By sharing your thoughts, you're not only supporting this story, you're showing solidarity with countless parents, children, and everyday heroes who fight against injustice every day, often in silence. Let us know where you're watching from, and what part of this story hit you the hardest. Was it Emily's quiet strength, Jack's unwavering love, or the moment the community finally stood up together? Your comment could be the one that inspires someone else to speak out, to take action, or to find comfort in knowing they're not alone. Don't hold back. This is a safe space, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. We post new content every evening, and your support helps us bring truth to light. Thank you for being here.